Have you ever heard of a doctor who, instead of saving lives, took them? Imagine trusting your family physician, a respected pillar of the community, only to discover he was one of history's most prolific serial killers. This is the chilling true story of Harold Shipman, the man they called Dr. Death. In the quiet English town of Hyde, a dark secret was unfolding behind the closed doors of a doctor's surgery. For decades, a man sworn to the Hippocratic Oath was systematically ending the lives of his patients, one by one, with terrifying precision. How did he get away with it for so long? And what finally brought his reign of terror to an end? Stick with me as we unravel the shocking case of Harold Shipman. Harold Frederick Shipman, born in 1946 in Nottingham, seemed destined for a life of healing. He was a bright student who excelled in school and was particularly close to his mother. Her battle with terminal lung cancer and the relief morphine provided her in her final days left a profound mark on the young Harold. This early exposure to the power of medicine and the process of dying would later be seen as a haunting foreshadowing of the path he would take. After graduating from Leeds School of Medicine, he began his career as a general practitioner. By all accounts, he was a hard-working, dedicated doctor, respected by his colleagues and beloved by his elderly patients, who saw him as a caring and attentive figure. He established his own successful practice in Hyde Grare, Manchester, in 1993, and became a cornerstone of the local community. No one could have suspected the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of this trusted professional. The pattern was subtle, almost invisible at first. Shipman's patients were predominantly elderly women who lived alone. They would pass away suddenly, often following a routine home visit from their doctor. Shipman would then sign the death certificate, citing natural causes like old age. He was the one who informed the grieving families, offering comfort and handling the necessary paperwork with a calm efficiency that many found reassuring in their time of loss. Because the deaths were not deemed suspicious, autopsies were rarely performed. For years, the alarmingly high death rate among his patients went unnoticed. He was a master of his craft, not in medicine, but in manipulation. He exploited the trust placed in him, using his medical knowledge not to heal, but to harm. Administering lethal doses of diamorphine, a medical-grade heroin. He operated in plain sight, his authority as a doctor serving as the perfect cover. The first whispers of suspicion came not from the police, but from a fellow professional. Dr. Linda Reynolds, a GP at a neighboring practice, was alarmed by the sheer number of her patients who had previously been under Shipman's care and had died. She also noticed a striking similarity in their deaths. She took her concerns to the coroner, but a covert police investigation in 1998 found insufficient evidence to bring charges. The system had failed to catch him, but Shipman's arrogance would be his undoing. His final victim was Kathleen Grundy, the former mayoress of Hyde. She died suddenly in June 1998. Shipman signed her death certificate, listing old age as the cause. However, a shocking discovery was made by Grundy's daughter, Angela Woodruff, who was a solicitor. A new, clumsily typed will had appeared, leaving Kathleen Grundy's entire estate, worth nearly £400,000, to Dr. Shipman. This was the red flag that could not be ignored. Angela Woodruff was convinced the will was a forgery and that her mother, who had been in good health, had not died of natural causes. She went straight to the police. This time, they listened. Kathleen Grundy's body was exhumed, and a post-mortem examination revealed lethal levels of diamorphine. The investigation had finally been blown wide open. Police began to look at other deaths under Shipman's care. The more they dug, the more horrifying the picture became. They exhumed more bodies, and each one told the same story. Death by diamorphine overdose. The investigation expanded into a massive undertaking, reviewing hundreds of death certificates signed by Shipman. He had been falsifying medical records, creating fictitious entries to suggest his patients had been in poor health to justify their sudden deaths. The trial of Harold Shipman began in October 1999. He was charged with the murder of 15 of his patients, though authorities suspected the true number was far, far higher. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, from toxicology reports to the forged will and the falsified medical notes. Shipman remained defiant and arrogant throughout the proceedings. He offered no explanation for his actions. No confession, no remorse. He maintained his innocence, portraying himself as a victim of a terrible misunderstanding. But the jury saw through the facade. On January 31st, 2000, he was found guilty on all 15 counts of murder and 1 count of forgery. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences, with the judge recommending he'd never be released. The judge called his crimes a calculated and cold-blooded abuse of trust. The question that haunts everyone is, why? What was Shipman's motive? Was it a twisted form of mercy? A god complex, where he believed he was deciding when his patients' lives should end? Was it for financial gain, as the forged will suggested? Or was he simply addicted to the act of taking a life, deriving a thrill from holding the ultimate power over his unsuspecting patients? Because Shipman never spoke, we are left only with speculation. Some theories point back to his mother's death, suggesting he was trying to recreate the scene of her peaceful passing. Others believe he was simply a predator who found the perfect hunting ground in his medical practice. The official inquiry into his crimes, the Shipman inquiry, concluded that he was responsible for the deaths of at least 215 of his patients, and possibly as many as 260, making him the most prolific serial killer in British history. The case of Harold Shipman sent shockwaves through the UK's healthcare system. It exposed terrifying gaps in the procedures for certifying deaths and monitoring doctors. The inquiry led to sweeping reforms, including changes to the coroner system, stricter controls on controlled drugs, and a re-evaluation of how the medical profession is regulated. It was a brutal wake-up call about the dangers of placing absolute, unchecked trust in figures of authority. The story serves as a chilling reminder that evil can wear the most ordinary, even respectable, of faces. It's a tale of trust betrayed on an unimaginable scale, forever changing the relationship between doctors and patients in the United Kingdom. In 2004, Harold Shipman took his own life in his prison cell, taking his secrets and his motives to the grave. He left behind a legacy of shattered families and a community struggling to comprehend how a man they trusted with their lives could be the very person who took them. The story of Dr. Death is a dark chapter in medical history, a warning that we must always remain vigilant, even towards those we are taught to trust implicitly. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of Britain's most shocking criminal cases. If you found this video informative, please hit that like button. And for more true crime stories and historical investigations, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case in the comments below. Stay safe, and see you in the next video.